Hello and welcome back to AWS On Air. I'm Jasmine Kyles, one of your hosts here throughout the day at AWS Reinforce live in Philadelphia, and I'm joined here with my co-host Kyle.
I'm the other Kyle Dickinson, your friendly threat detection and incident response specialist, holding near and dear to your heart. And Jasmine, I am so excited. I've been waiting for this moment all week, last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I even ran down here because I'm so excited.
I couldn't sleep. I was so excited because I thought about the fact that you were going to have to run here for this. But hey, enough about us. We've got Steve Schmidt on stage.
What?
How's it going, Steve?
Hey, it's going really well. How are you doing?
I'm excellent. Hey, for those of us in the audience who don't know who you are, what do you do at Amazon?
Sure. So I'm Steve Schmidt. I'm the Chief Security Officer for Amazon. If you think about security, it's both people and things. So I'm responsible for the safety and security of all of our staff foremost, and also all of the data that our customers entrust to us.
That is a big task. I mean, this is no longer a bookstore. This is a global company that has a lot of high tech, and this is incredible to be sitting up here with you. And coming from your experience of doing what you do, what would you say being at Reinforce, a security-centric conference, has you most excited?
I got to say that the thing that I'm looking forward to the most is really the opportunity to enable security engineers in any company around the world to do their job more efficiently. You know, people are talking a lot about agentic AI right now, and just to make sure we're on the same page, agents are software tools that do things for us.
Yeah.
You know, you're used to AI in the nature of asking questions, getting an answer, maybe creating a GIF or something like that. Let's have the GIF-GIF argument here. Which one is pronounced properly? But in what we're seeing right now is that it's an opportunity for companies small and large to be so much more effective at their job of securing the data and securing the resources their customers depend on.
Yeah. So we're talking a little bit about the difference between agentic AI and conversational AI, and we're educating all of our customers about that. So from your perspective, where do you see agentic AI having a place like in cybersecurity?
So agentic AI is going to help us do things more rapidly than we could before. For example, when we look at what we do internally within Amazon and AWS in particular in responding to things, it used to be that our engineers had to do a lot of log analytics themselves. They had to troll through stuff to look for things that were interesting, compare it between different sets of systems, different networks, and say, one of these things is not like the other.
Yeah.
What is it that I'm looking for here? A lot of that work can be done by software now, by agents. And more importantly than anything else, agents can then propose, and we should do these things as a result. You know, maybe it's change the security group, maybe it's take a system offline, maybe it's pause an instance or something like that. And I think the really important key point, though, that a lot of people haven't yet gotten to with agentic AI is not perfect.
Yep.
You know, and most people don't think about AI as something that is very different than traditional software, but it is. You know, if you look at the non-deterministic nature of AI, meaning it doesn't always come up with the same answer, that could be a little awkward in a security situation. We have to make the correct call every time, and as such, we always have to have a human in the loop.
Right.
You know, and one thing that really gets me excited about agentic AI is the different tooling you could plug into, because maybe you have a incident responder that is responding to a particular type of alert or finding, and they don't know the company's policy or reporting structure for something, and they plug in the information that they would want to, and it's providing them that information, and it's lowering the time to detect, time to respond, but then also giving them the confidence that they have the appropriate information they need, instead of going to this playbook here and then this tool over here and logging into the other dozen of things that incident responders do work with on a regular basis.
And I think one piece that I'd like to tease out a little bit from what you said that is super important is it's about giving people capability that they may not have had before. So if you think about an entry-level responder, they're maybe not been in the job a long time, or they're not super used to all the systems they're having to deal with. How are they sure they're doing all of the right things? One of the cool things when you train models on data that comes from within, and Amazon does that when we train Nova, for example, we train on our own stuff. In addition to things on the outside, we embody all of the knowledge from those super senior engineers who've made a lot of really good decisions over time into the model. So then the more junior engineer who uses it gets to take advantage of that knowledge without having to actually find somebody, wake them up, page them, etc.
We just saw some of that in AWS Shield that we brought here, and it was covered a little bit in the keynote earlier, but it's giving kind of those recommendations, but also where to go. When you talk about like a junior engineer, they haven't figured out where to look for across the AWS console of finding everything and putting it together. So I think about the time that they're saving of not having to look for where the things are.
Yeah, it's not even just the time savings. You're absolutely right about that, though. It's also did you look under this rock? Oh, no, I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
But that's real. When you're first getting into the business, you don't know everything to do. You don't know every place to go. So use the tools. Help yourself make better decisions.
Yeah.
Especially when we work in worlds now where like it's no longer just like security data. We're looking at data lakes for security context. And that could be time consuming to figure out, am I looking at the right thing or is there something abnormal occurring? And it could just be overwhelming. And I mean, you got a lot of toil when it comes to alert fatigue and finding ways to just improve that response process.
And I think the piece that's really important out of that, though, is you've got a lot of places to look. And if you're doing things the old way, the human speed way, where you're digging through piles and piles of stuff, you may get through 1, 2, 5, or 10 different data lakes that you have to look at. But how many places, our scale, for example, have a few things?
Yeah.
We got big piles of stuff. So you've got to be using tools.
Bunch of
to do
piles
that
of
work.
rocks.
Exactly.
So where do you think that AI agents in cybersecurity is headed?
It's headed to a place where you're going to take action to mitigate something much more quickly than you could before.
Okay.
It's going to take time to get there,
Yeah.
and there's going to be a lot of refinement process that has to go on along the way, where we have to make sure that what the agent is suggesting is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
So I don't foresee any time in the near future anyway where I would be comfortable letting an agent do things autonomously on a production or important system.
Yeah.
I'd say, all right, an agent that's got, and these are just arbitrary numbers, 60% accuracy, 80% accuracy. If it's dealing with a problem on my personal dev desktop, for example, okay, fine. That's not a big deal. But I'm not going to let it touch www.amazon.com.
Yeah.
That's too big of a risk.
Yeah. When you say risk, how do you think about mitigating the risk and like considering it even to begin with?
Mitigating the risk of an error in the implementation.
Yeah.
So that's why you've got to have that sort of soup to nuts explanation of, all right, here's what the agent thinks is going on. Here are the component sets of data which led it to that conclusion. And here are the reasons why, when you line all those up, it means something specific.
Okay.
That way a person can look at it and say, okay, I agree with this, or no, there's a piece missing here, or this one, huh?
Yeah.
And occasionally, we've all done this when we've been using the chat interfaces on various things. You give it a question, you get an answer back, you're like, what?
Yeah.
That really does not make sense.
That's the confidence of a 4-year-old with
Are
a
you
Batman
sure
t-shirt.
about that?
It's like, maybe not today.
Yeah. So, Steve, we've had a lot of folks in the chat saying, how do I get into security? What's your advice for the junior folks who are just coming up and learning?
So the number one thing that we look for in people who are hiring is curiosity. It's people who are really interested in learning more.
Okay.
There's a huge opportunity to learn things throughout what you do personally and what you do professionally. But the thing that is most valuable to us as a company is somebody who wants to keep learning over time, because the industry changes constantly. Just look what's going on here. We have so many different people with great ideas popping things out. You're like, oh, wow, I could really use that. And we look for people who want to learn. We look for people who always ask why. It's not, okay, this occurred, we're done. No, it's why did that occur?
Yeah.
If you think about the correction of error process that Amazon has.
5 whys.
The 5 whys, exactly. Why do we ask the question why 5 times recursively? Because it takes that much digging to get down to the real root of what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is I think a great way to unfortunately close out our time, because time goes by so quick when you're having fun. It genuinely does. And I can't explain why.
Yeah.
If there was one piece of advice you could give your past self prior to where you are now, what would it be? I've been asking this to like a bunch of other people too, and it's been phenomenal. I've heard the art of yet, like we don't know that yet.
Yeah, I'd say the thing that I would teach myself is be better with metrics sooner. Really get down to the nuts and bolts of explain with data why something occurred, and make arguments based on those metrics. It's something that's super successful at Amazon. It's something I didn't learn soon enough in my own life. A lot of people are qualitative instead of quantitative, and you may be right, but you can't prove it.
Well,
Prove it.
thank you so much for joining us today. This has been incredible. And hey, don't go anywhere because we are still coming at you live at AWS Reinforce 2025 here in Philadelphia. See you soon.